646 people died in tire-related crashes in 2023, and only 19% of drivers actually inflate their tires correctly. 4 out of 5 of us are doing something wrong every single time we fill up. This video covers the most dangerous mistakes people make when inflating their tires. Mistakes that cause blowouts, accidents, and explosions violent enough to kill on impact. Some of these you've probably never heard of, and others you might be doing right now without realizing it. The mistake that kills the most people. The deadliest inflation mistake has nothing to do with faulty equipment or defective tires, and it comes down to reading the wrong number. What happens is, you glance at your tire sidewall, spot a number somewhere between 44 and 51 psi, and assume that's your target pressure. You inflate to that number, drive away, and never think twice about it. That's wrong, and it can kill you. Your sidewall number represents the maximum pressure that tire can safely hold at maximum load, which means it's a ceiling and not a target. The correct pressure for your vehicle sits on a placard inside your driver's door jamb, usually somewhere between 30 and 35 psi, depending on what you drive, and that difference matters more than most people realize. Inflating to maximum sidewall pressure shrinks your contact patch with the road, causes your tires to bulge in the center, and wears the tread unevenly. Your braking distance stretches longer, handling gets sloppier, and emergency maneuvers become less predictable. A FedEx fleet study found that running tires at maximum sidewall pressure actually caused more blowouts than running 5 psi under max, which tells you everything you need to know about the overinflation myth. The historical example that should convince anyone skeptical involves Ford and Firestone. Between 2000 and 2001, Ford recalled over 14 million Firestone tires after linking them to tread separations and rollover crashes, primarily on Ford Explorers. The death toll climbed to 238 people in the United States alone, with injuries exceeding 500. And here's the thing that should terrify every driver. One of the contributing factors came down to a 4 psi disagreement. Ford recommended 26 psi, while Firestone recommended 30 psi. 4 pounds of pressure difference helped fuel one of the deadliest automotive safety scandals in American history. Your door jamb pressure exists for a reason, and that number is calibrated specifically for your vehicle's weight, suspension geometry, and handling characteristics. The invisible damage you can't see. Most people have never heard of zipper failure, but tire technicians and OSHA inspectors know the term all too well, and it describes one of the most dangerous conditions a tire can develop. A zipper rupture tears through the sidewall of a steel-belted radial tire in a circumferential pattern, opening up like an actual zipper with alternating tiers that look like teeth. The way it develops starts with underinflation, because when a tire runs low on pressure, the sidewall flexes more than it should with every rotation. That repeated flexing generates heat deep inside the tire structure. Over time, that heat fatigues the steel cords holding everything together, and the damage stays completely internal where you can't see it. From the outside, the tire looks perfectly fine with no bulges and no visible cracks. What you can't see is the compromised structural integrity hiding beneath the surface. Then you reinflate it, pressure builds inside the weakened structure, and the fatigued cords can't contain the force anymore. The sidewall tears open, usually without giving you any warning at all. OSHA created a specific regulation because of exactly this scenario. If a tire has operated at 80% or less of its recommended pressure, federal law requires complete deflation and inspection before anyone reinflates it. That rule applies to commercial vehicles, and it exists because real people died from ignoring this danger. Warning signs you should watch for include vertical bulges in the sidewall, any creaking or popping sounds during inflation, and any tire that's been driven completely flat. Noticing any of these means you stop inflating immediately and get the tire professionally inspected. The Widowmakers. Tire technicians have a name for multi-piece wheels, and they call them Widowmakers for reasons that become horrifyingly clear when you understand the physics involved. Unlike the single-piece wheels on passenger cars, these split-rim designs consist of multiple interlocking components that lock together to hold the tire in place. You'll find them on trucks, tractors, trailers, buses, forklifts, and construction equipment. When those components aren't seated properly, and that's when the real danger begins, they can separate with enough violence to end a life instantly. The energy involved defies what most people imagine. A truck tire inflated to 90 psi stores approximately 63,000 1,000 foot-pounds of energy, and when that releases in an explosion, rim components can launch at speeds reaching 130 miles per hour. That kind of force destroys concrete block walls without slowing down. July 1976 brought a tragedy that helped change the industry when an 18-year-old named Eric Amon died in Pennsylvania after a multi-piece rim exploded during routine tire service. Rim components struck him in the chest and head, killing him at work. His mother Mary Amon spent years fighting for change, and her crusade helped push OSHA toward the regulations that now govern this equipment. Today, OSHA 29 CFR 1910.177 requires safety cages whenever anyone inflates multi-piece wheels. Those cages need to withstand 150% of the tire's maximum rated pressure, and the air hose has to be long enough for technicians to stand outside what OSHA calls the trajectory, meaning any path those wheel components might travel during explosive separation. The numbers from 1978 to 1987 paint a grim picture: 694 reported workplace injuries from tire and wheel explosions, and 143 deaths, with 78% of fatalities caused by head injuries from flying components. What makes this worse is that the Tire Industry Association reviewed OSHA fatality reports from fiscal year 2014 and counted 14 worker deaths from tire servicing. 10 of those deaths, representing 71% of the total, happened during inflation. Not one of those fatality reports mentioned a safety cage being present. Anyone near commercial tire work should verify a cage is being used, because that's the only barrier between the technician and an explosion that can happen without warning. The temperature trap. Adjusting tire pressure when your tires are hot seems logical, and that's exactly why this mistake catches so many drivers off guard. Tire pressure fluctuates with temperature, following a rule of roughly 1 to 2 psi for every 10-degree Fahrenheit change. Driving heats your tires through friction with the road, which means a tire that started the morning at 35 ps, I might read 40 or even 45 psi after highway driving. The trap works like this. You pull into a gas station after driving, check your tires, see they're reading high, and figure you should release some air to match your door jam specification. That decision will leave you dangerously underinflated by the time those tires cool down. Releasing pressure from a hot tire to match a cold specification means you might end up 5, 10, or even 15 psi low once everything cools overnight, putting you well into the danger zone where blowouts become much more likely. The correct approach stays simple. Check your tires cold, meaning not driven for at least 3 hours. That's the only time your door jam specification actually applies. Tire Rack ran testing that shows exactly how dramatic these temperature swings get. A tire sitting in direct sunlight went from 35 psi to 40 psi just from ambient temperature climbing from 67 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. A shaded tire under identical conditions only reached 36.5 psi, giving you a 5 psi difference from nothing more than sun exposure. Never let air out of a hot tire to hit a target number, because that number only means something when the tire is cold. Gas station air pumps. Can you trust them? NHTSA conducted an air pump gauge accuracy study to answer exactly this question, and the findings give you good reason to be skeptical. User reports documented gas station air pump gauges reading 3 to 10 psi off from actual pressure, and one extreme case showed a pump set to 35 psi that delivered over 60 psi into the tire. The opposite problem shows up just as often, with pumps set to 35 psi delivering only 29 psi to tires that needed more. Heavy public use wears these machines down faster than maintenance schedules can keep up with. Gauges drift out of calibration, internal components degrade, and some pumps even spray moisture into tires along with the air. The fix costs almost nothing. Buy your own tire pressure gauge for somewhere between $5 and $25. Use the gas station equipment to add air, but verify the result with your own gauge before driving away. This habit becomes even more important when you understand the limitations of the backup system in your car. What your TPMS isn't telling you. The Ford Firestone disaster pushed Congress to pass the Tread Act in November 2000, and by September 2007, every new vehicle under 10,000 pounds had to include a tire pressure monitoring system. TPMS technology has saved lives, with NHTSA data showing roughly a 50% reduction in fatalities related to underinflation when comparing pre-TPMS vehicles to post-TPMS models. But here's what most drivers don't understand about how these systems actually work. Federal law only requires TPMS to alert you when a tire drops to 25% below recommended pressure. Running a recommended pressure of 32 psi means your warning light won't illuminate until you're down around 24 psi. That gap allows you to drive with 20 to 25% under inflation, a level that already accelerates wear and significantly raises blowout risk without ever seeing a warning light on your dashboard. The improvement still shows in the data. Before TPMS, 23% of vehicles had at least one tire underinflated by 25% or more. After TPMS became mandatory, that number dropped to 12%. Progress happened, but 1 in 8 vehicles on the road right now still has a dangerously underinflated tire. NHTSA research found that tires underinflated by 25% or more become 3 times more likely to factor into the pre-crash phase of an accident. 3 times the risk, and your warning light might never come on. TPMS works as a backup system and nothing more. Monthly manual checks with your own gauge remain the only reliable way to catch problems before they become dangerous. The extreme cases. Recent incidents show exactly how catastrophic tire failures become when stored energy releases all at once. June 14th, 2024 brought tragedy to a quarry in Little Rock, California, when Los Angeles County firefighter Andrew Pontius responded to a front-end loader fire. The machine's rear tire measured roughly 7 feet in diameter, and the fire triggered a process called pyrolysis. Pyrolysis occurs when extreme heat causes chemical decomposition inside the tire, building pressure far beyond anything the structure was designed to contain. Normal burst pressures sit around 200 psi, but pyrolysis can push internal pressure past 1000 psi before the tire finally ruptures. The explosion that killed Pontius projected debris up to 350 feet from the machine. The 53-year-old firefighter was thrown 31 feet and died instantly at the scene. LA County Fire Department responded by implementing new guidelines requiring 15 to 50 feet minimum distance from any burning equipment with tires, and the Mine Safety and Health Administration issued a fatality alert. 2 months later, on August 27, 2024, a tire explosion at a Delta Airlines maintenance facility in Atlanta killed 2 workers during routine service on a Boeing 757. A third worker suffered serious injuries. OSHA opened an investigation into the incident. These events aren't freak accidents or unpredictable disasters. A tire holding 100 psi with any structural defect can release force equivalent to 50,000 pounds during separation, and that kind of energy has to go somewhere. What to actually do? The numbers tell a story that should motivate every driver to take this seriously. 646 deaths in tire-related crashes during 2023, roughly 11,000 tire-related crashes happening every year, and 81% of drivers failing to inflate their tires properly. Proper inflation follows a straightforward process that takes minutes. Check your tires at least once monthly when they're cold, meaning not driven for 3 hours or more. Use the pressure listed on your door jamb placard and ignore the sidewall maximum entirely. Verify your work with your own gauge because gas station equipment drifts out of calibration constantly. Never release air from a hot tire to hit a target number, and never reinflate any tire that's been driven flat or severely underinflated without professional inspection first. Anyone near commercial tire work should confirm a safety cage is present before inflation begins. Tires lose about 1.5 psi naturally every month just sitting in your driveway, plus another psi for every 10-degree temperature drop. Your TPMS won't warn you until pressure falls 25% below specification, which means trouble has already arrived by the time that light comes on. None of this takes special knowledge or expensive equipment. It just requires doing the right things consistently instead of assuming everything is fine. That's it for this one. If you found this useful, you know what to do. I'll see you in the next video.